We just got the most recent news from Al-Azhar. There has been death in the Roman Catholic Church. Pope Francis was the first pope from Latin America. Not many people knew that the Pope kept working as a pastor even though he was stuck in a wheelchair and had major lung infections. This is the moving and powerful story of Pope Francis's last years, from the times he was hospitalized out of the blue to the time Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle first spoke out after his death. A church that is sad. When the news came out that Pope Francis had died on April 21, 2025, it shocked everyone. He was the leader of the Catholic Church and a hero all over the world for being kind, humble, and deeply caring about the poor and disadvantaged. Pope Francis was different in many ways. He was the first pope from Latin America and the first Jesuit to lead the church. Most importantly, he touched the hearts of millions of people with his simple life and never-ending work to make the church a place where everyone felt welcome. People from heads of state to regular people spoke out about their sadness and gratitude. People from all over the world sent their condolences. A lot of people posted tributes to him on social media. In honor of them, churches held special masses and dropped their flags. There were even religious leaders who were not Christians who spoke well of the Pope and saw him as a healer and bridge builder. At the Vatican, people were feeling down. For a lot of top church leaders, there's a video of Pope Francis on YouTube that you can watch. He's not only a spiritual leader, he's also a beloved father and friend. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a strong voice in the church, is one of the most well-known people right now. Everyone knows him for being kind, smart, and having a strong faith. Tagle has known Pope Francis for a long time and is thought to be one of his best friends. When the Vatican told the world that the Pope had died, all eyes were on Cardinal Tagle. What did people think he would say? What would he say to show how he feels? Catholics all over the world, but especially in the Philippines and Asia, couldn't wait to hear what he had to say. For the first few days, he decided to keep quiet, which made everyone more excited. Everyone knew that when Cardinal Tagle spoke, he would not speak quickly. It would be words that come from deep thought and honest feelings. It wasn't a surprise that he was quiet. Tagle is always careful and thoughtful, especially when she is feeling sad. He's never been someone who said something just because they could. A lot of people admire him for his heart as well as his position because he is honest. The whole world is now listening to him because he finally spoke. Not only do his words honor a great pope, they also mark the start of a new trip. Cardinal Tagle's words were both a memory of the past and a look ahead to the future of the Church, its next leaders, and the millions of Christians who are hurting and looking for hope. Our story is about to start anew, and Cardinal Tagle's words are helping everyone find their way. When he was young, no one had ever heard of Pope Francis, but his journey has been very interesting. Jorge Mario Bergoglio grew up in the Flores area of Buenos Aires, Argentina. He was just a boy. Jorge was the oldest of 5 children. He was born on December 17, 1936. His father, Mario, was an accountant who came to the U.S. from Italy, and his mother, Regina, was a housewife who was born in northern Italy. In 1929, the Bergoglio family left Italy to get away from Mussolini's fascist government and find a better life in Argentina. Jorge had a simple and low-key life. He went to Catholic schools in the area and then graduated from a technical high school with a degree in chemical engineering. During that time, Jorge did a lot of different jobs that required physical labor, from being a cleaner to a security guard. Eventually, a woman named Esther Balestrino helped him get a job in a lab. Jorge had a big setback when he was 21. He got a bad case of pneumonia that meant part of his lung had to be cut out. This would be a health problem for the rest of his life. That said, Jorge's life really changed when he was on his way to a spring fair. Along the way, he stopped at a church to admit his sins. That's when he got a whole new sense of direction in life. Because of this event, he decided to become a priest. From 1958 to 1959, Jorge was a beginner in the Society of Jesus, also known as the Community of Jesus. He went to Chile to study philosophy some more and then came back to Argentina to teach literature and psychology. In the beginning of his life as a holy man, Jorge still had problems inside. He once told someone he liked a girl and for a moment wondered if being a priest was really right for him. Jorge was made a priest in 1969. In 1973, 4 years later, he made his last vows as a Jesuit. In the same year, he was chosen to be the provincial superior of the Jesuits in Argentina. He pushed for a traditional spirit of service and dedication, but his way of leading did not always get along with the way other religious people did things. He was asked to quit and sent to Germany to study at one time. But he went back to Argentina before finishing school and kept working in more secret jobs. A confessor and spiritual guide for many years, his deep religiousness caught the attention of people in charge of the church. He was made assistant bishop of Buenos Aires in 1992 and worked his way up to become archbishop. In 1998, he was called the slum bishop because he worked so hard to help the city's poorest areas. He often walked through the slums and houses, putting himself in the shoes of the poor to share and help them. Bergoglio was also known for wanting to change things for the better. He looked over and handled the archdiocese's money to get things in order, and he was honest about the problems the Argentine church had caused in the past, especially during the military dictatorship. It wasn't scary for him to question authority. He stood up for the poor and was open to talking about contentious issues. He was made a cardinal by Pope John Paul II in 2001. Even though he had more duties, he kept a simple lifestyle. He chose to live in a small apartment instead of a fancy mansion and took the bus instead of his own car. He made his own food and tried to stay out of public view as much as possible. Over time, he gained a lot of respect for his shyness, his conservative beliefs, and his strong desire to do what's right. As soon as Pope John Paul II died in 2005, Cardinal Ratzinger and Bergoglio were both very close to becoming pope. Ratzinger later became Pope Benedict XVI. Bergoglio said he would step down as archbishop in 2011, but he will stay in the job until a new one is picked. He started out poor in the working class of Buenos Aires and has become one of the most important speakers in the Catholic Church. As a kid, Pope Francis had a lot of faith and devotion. His path to the Vatican was fueled by both his spiritual commitment and his unique ability to connect with regular people. This is a trait he has kept up as pope. He was still in pretty good health when he was chosen pope in 2013 at the age of 76. He had an infection as a young man and had part of a lung cut out. Doctors said it didn't have a big effect on his general health. It would be most dangerous for him to get a lung infection, which would be worse than most people's. But his health started to get worse over time, especially as he aged. In the 2020s, Pope Francis had more problems with flu and asthma in the winter. Having problems with his knees and sciatica has also made it hard for him to walk. He had to use a wheelchair, walker, or cane more and more to get around in public. In 2021, his health situation was talked about by many people. There were many rumors that he might step down because of his health, but Pope Francis refuted them and said he had no plans to do so. His planned trips to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in South Sudan had to be pushed back in June 2022, though, because he had to get care for a knee injury. He once said that he would step down as pastor of the church if his health made it impossible for him to do so. But he wasn't thinking about stepping down at that time. Pope Francis was taken to the hospital in March 2023 with a lung infection. Luckily, he got better quickly and was able to return in time to lead the Easter Vigil Mass in April. though in June of the next year he had surgery in his abdomen to fix a hernia. The Pope started using a wheelchair at public events around this time because his knees hurt all the time. People in the Catholic community, especially those with disabilities, praised him for being honest and caring about his health, even though he worked less quickly. There were more problems in February 2025. Pope Francis was taken to the Giulai Hospital in Rome on Valentine's Day because he had bronchitis. At first, his illness was thought to be mild, but it got worse very quickly. He had a polymicrobial infection in his lungs, which caused him to get pneumonia on both sides. It was said that his situation was critical. He needed blood transfusions and help with high-flow air. Doctors told him a few days later that he was showing early signs of kidney failure. Experts thought that his condition could be managed, but on February 28, he had a bronchospasm and accidentally breathed in vomit, which made things worse and required him to be put on a non-invasive respirator. His health got better for a short time, but it quickly got worse again, so he had to be put back on the ventilator. Pope Francis's health didn't start to get better until the middle of March. Doctors said the infection was under control, and on March 23rd, he was formally sent home from the hospital. Soon after leaving the hospital, he walked out onto the balcony and waved and blessed the people who were there. Pope Francis should continue to rest and heal for at least 2 months, but he should work less quickly. The Pope's first public appearance since his long hospital stay was on April 6th. This showed that he was getting better and was ready to get back to his spiritual work. How do you know Luis Antonio Tagle? Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, who people in the Catholic Church call Chito, is a respected leader known for his religious zeal, humility, and strong dedication to social justice. He was born on June 21, 1957, in Imus, Cavite, Philippines, into a Catholic family with members from different cultures. He has a Tagalog father named Manuel Tagle and a Filipino and Chinese mother named Magros Gokim. Tagle's work in the church began when he was made a priest in 1982. He went to the Catholic University of America to continue his education. There, he got a Ph.D. in sacred theology and was praised for his great work. He taught at several seminaries and helped write important church papers, such as the history of the Second Vatican Council. He was deeply interested in both theology and education. In 2001, he was made Bishop of Imus. For 10 years, he lived a simple life and was close to the people who lived there. People thought that his kindness and tolerance really showed Pope Francis's pastoral heart. He became Archbishop of Manila in 2011, which is one of the most important jobs in the Philippine Church. What he didn't stop at home. In 2012, Pope Benedict I made him a cardinal. He was then named head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. He was very important to the Vatican in this job, especially when it came to spreading the gospel around the world. For example, Tagle cares about the poor and wants to make the church more open to everyone, just like Pope Francis. He has been called the Francis of Asia. And many people think he would make a good pope because of his charisma, theological insight, and world vision. Some people didn't like the way he handled paperwork at Caritas Internationalis, but his reputation as a caring and devoted boss hasn't changed. Many people think that Cardinal Tagle's voice and leadership will take the church in a new way, one that is based on compassion, humility, and a deep love for the gospel. The spiritual and emotional ties that bind Cardinal Tagle to Pope Francis are strong. They lived at the same time and shared the same goal for the Catholic Church, one that is more humble, caring, and open to everyone. From the start, Pope Francis saw in Tagle a person who shared his beliefs and who was like him. Humility, caring about the poor, fairness in society, and a compassionate view of faith are all important in music. People know the Filipino cardinal for being kind, simple, and able to connect with them. Like Pope Francis, Tagle has given up luxury to work directly with the poor and teach the Church's teachings in a way that is kind and easy to understand. So it's not a surprise that Pope Francis has given him a lot of important work to do at the Vatican. Cardinal Tagle was named head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples by Pope Francis in December 2019. This is one of the most important jobs in the Church, especially when it comes to missionary work around the world. It shows that Pope Francis trusts Tagle by putting an Asian leader in this role. It also shows that Tagle can shape the direction of the international Church. He was made a cardinal bishop in May 2020 by Pope Francis. This is the highest rank in the Council of Cardinals. The rise is a great honor that shows the Pope has a lot of faith in Tagle, who is not only a key member of the Vatican, but also a key part of the Church's future leadership. When Pope Francis visited the Philippines in 2015, it was one of the most memorable times in their friendship. Cardinal Tagle met him with joy and warmth. Together, they went to a number of public events, such as a Mass in Manila's Luneta Park, where millions of Filipinos were present. The two of them led the event, and in his speech, Cardinal Tagle thanked the Pope for being a father figure who gives people hope and knows their joys and sorrows. It was a sweet moment that showed they were the same in more ways than one. They loved everyone. Holy See, Cardinal Francis and Pope Francis have always had a respectful and spiritually close friendship. Tagle's work has been helped by the Pope, and he has also spread the Pope's ideas around the world and in Asia. They are now a strong leadership team that shows Catholics all over the world that leaders must start with humility, service, and an open heart. As soon as Pope Francis died, Cardinal Tagle didn't say anything in public for a few days. His lack of worry was not because he didn't care, but because he was very sad. He felt very close to the loss because he worked with the Pope and shared many of the same beliefs. When Cardinal Tagle finally spoke, what he had to say was moving and from the heart. He said that Pope Francis was a humble worker of God and a light for many people. He was not only sad, but he also had a lot of respect for the Pope's life and work. His mood was one of respect, thanks, and a call to carry on the work that Pope Francis had started. Cardinal Tagle's speech was full of praise for unity and kindness. He told the faithful to keep up Pope Francis's work of loving the poor, promoting peace, and following the teachings of the gospel. A lot of people were moved by his message, which was both a respect to the late Pope and hope for the future of the Church. Cardinal Tagle's words reminded everyone of what Pope Francis's leadership has done for the world. Music, they also talked about how important it was for church leaders and members of the Church to follow Pope Francis's goal of a loving and welcoming community. When people were sad, Cardinal Tagle's words gave them relief and a sense that they were all working toward the same goal. Now that Pope Francis has died, his place in the future of the Church is even more important. The Catholic Church is entering a new time of reflection and hope. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines stands out among the people who want to be his replacement. Cardinal Tagle, who is sometimes called Asia's Francis, is a lot like the late Pope Francis in that he is humble, works for social justice, and helps the poor and the disadvantaged. With a strong background as a preacher and a strong desire to spread the gospel, he is a respected voice in the Church. Cardinal Tagle was named head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples by Pope Francis in 2019. This is a very important job that oversees missionary work around the world. As Archbishop of Manila, he gained a lot of experience and knowledge about other countries. This makes him a good leader for the Church. Some people think that if Cardinal Tagle is chosen Pope, it will be a big deal because it will be the first time that an Asian has led the Catholic Church. His background in different cultures and deep knowledge of how to work with multicultural groups could give the Pope new life. But some have pointed out problems, such as the fact that he is 67 years old and that there are political issues in the Church. Still, most people think Cardinal Tagle is a good candidate for Pope because he is a humble leader who is fully committed to Pope Francis's mission. As the conclave gets closer, Cardinal Tagle's name stays at the top of rumors. He could continue Pope Francis's caring and welcoming style of leadership. It was when Pope Francis died, during what is known as the Vacante time, the Vatican was built. This is the time between when a pope dies and when a new one is chosen. Many of the Vatican's regular activities had to be put on hold during this time to get ready for the Church's transition. During the Vacante, the Roman Curia, which was in charge of running the Holy See, stopped working. Most department heads didn't go to work while the Pope was away to make sure that no important decisions were made, but some jobs stayed open to make sure that important work kept getting done. Cardinal Kevin Farrell, who is now in charge of running the Vatican on a daily basis, is in charge of making sure the Pope's death is real, keeping the papal apartments safe, and getting ready for the election. During this time, there may also be conflict in the Curia, because different groups may be fighting for power in the process of choosing a new pope. If there isn't a central leader like the Pope, there may be instability and power battles as different groups back their own candidates and ideas for the Church's future. The Council of Cardinals, which is made up of cardinals younger than 80 years old, plays a big part during this time. This group will hold a conclave to choose the next pope, who will lead the Church through this time of change. Usually, the papal conclave takes place 15 to 20 days after the death of a pope. This gives potential cardinals time to get together in Rome. The cardinals are locked up in the Vatican, especially in the Sistine Chapel, during the process to keep things secret and stop outsiders from meddling. They vote every day, and a 2/3 majority is needed to choose the next pope. The process will keep going until a deal is reached. It will end when Habemus Papam is made public. There is a new king. As people talk about who should replace Pope Francis, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines has become the most popular choice. Many people respect and support Tagle because he is humble, leads in a pastoral way, and strongly believes in Pope Francis's mission. His history, especially his time as head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, shows how dedicated Tagle is to missionary work and how he sees the world as a whole. Because he is connected to the changes Pope Francis made, he could be a link between the Church's conservative and progressive groups. A lot of cardinals really like Tagle's way of leading, which is based on kindness and welcoming everyone. They want to keep pushing the Church forward in the next era. As the conclave goes on, Tagle's backing and that of his fellow cardinals will be very important in choosing who will lead the Catholic Church in the future. The Vatican is going through a time of change, which means it has both problems and great chances to shape the future. Leaders like Cardinal Tagle will be in charge of making decisions that will have a huge impact on the direction of the Church in the coming weeks. Many people see Tagle as a bright spot in the Catholic Church's future, following the lead of Pope Francis. People have called Tagle the Francis of Asia because he shares many of the beliefs and priorities that Pope Francis has had during his time in office. A strong voice for the poor, refugees, and people who are weak. His work with groups like Caras Internationales shows that he has always cared about social justice and helping others. Cardinal Tagle himself has said that he has always stressed how important it is to find the truth in the lives of the poor. Pope Francis wants a poor church for the poor, and Tagle's theology is shaped by humility, kindness, and mercy. In his sermons, he often talks about current events and tells Christians to deal with the world with love and knowledge. Tagle not only reads from the Bible on his shows like Exposed, but he also explains how the messages in the Bible can be used in today's world, which helps people gain wisdom and understanding. People see Tagle as someone who can carry on the path of progress that Pope Francis has set out for church change. His style of leadership is more about spiritual care than strict doctrine, and he is willing to talk about things like the role of women in the church and reaching out to minorities. He will bring his own ideas to the job as Pope, but most people see it as an extension of Pope Francis's work to make the church bigger and better able to meet the needs of Christians all over the world. Overall, Cardinal Tagle's strong support for social justice, the religion of care, and Pope Francis's vision make him a possible leader who could carry on the work of making the Catholic Church more open and caring. Music, the death of Pope Francis has made Catholics all over the world very sad, especially in Asia, where the Church has grown a lot in the last few years. People in the Philippines, which has the most Catholics of any country in Asia, were very sad when they heard about his death. He talked about how humble and caring Pope Francis was for the poor when he called him the best pope of my lifetime. All over Manila, church bells rang, and people prayed together to remember a leader they called Lo Kiko or Grandpa Francis. He was a close friend of Pope Francis and one of the top leaders of the Philippine Church. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle said he was very sorry about his death. People felt a deep sense of loss when he didn't say anything after the Pope died. But when he broke the silence, many followers were moved by what he said. Cardinal Tagle's moving homily talked about Pope Francis's love for the poor and his hope for a more fair global church. During this sad time, his teaching brought comfort and direction to the faithful. For Filipino Catholics, Cardinal Tagle was both a source of pride in their country and a sign of hope for the future. His appointment to the Vatican as Bishop of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples showed the rise of Asian leaders in the Catholic Church around the world. He was a good candidate for the next pope because he understood Asian cultures well and cared deeply about social justice. These qualities fit perfectly with Pope Francis's vision. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle is known around the world as a humble and caring leader, which is why people call him Francis of Asia. Catholics all over the world have heard him, especially when he spoke out for the poor and tried to bring people from different cultures together. Since the Church is getting ready to pick a new pope, many people look to Cardinal Tagle as an example of how Asia is becoming more powerful in the Church structure. During this time of change, faith and leaders like Cardinal Tagle give Catholics in the Philippines and around Asia comfort and hope. People can trust that the Church will stay open, caring, and welcoming because he can carry on Pope Francis's work. The Catholic world is going through a time of deep thought and grief after the death of Pope Francis. In his last years, the Pope was in a lot of physical pain, but he was very strong. Even though a lung infection, surgery, knee problems, and a hospital stay that was very close to killing him made his health worse, he continued to work, pray, and go out in public, sometimes in a wheelchair or a hospital bed. Millions of people, especially crippled people, looked up to him as an example of strength and faith. Tagle spoke out after Pope Francis died. In his first public speech, he compared the Pope to a shepherd who bore his cross with patience and honor, and he praised the Pope's bravery, humility, and love for everyone. Cardinal Tagle also talked about the Pope's last weeks, when, despite being in a lot of pain, he stayed emotionally strong and kind. Pope Francis's death ends an important pontificate that broke with custom, fought for mercy, and brought the Church closer to the people. As the world mourns his death, Cardinal Tagle's words ring true and show what many people think to be true. Pope Francis was a leader, but he was also a kind person who gave his all to his faith.